Howdy y'all, you got the Bulldog on the channel. We talked to the customer on this Caddletracks yesterday, and no, they were not aware that they did not have rear brakes, and they would kind of like them to work. So we've got about half of the parts that we need to fix it. We try to keep a bunch of that stuff on hand, but since we use a lot of it, and this is going to take quite a bit of line, we don't have enough. I don't think we have enough. I'll bet when I unroll this line here, I'm going to end up coming up short, just an inch or so. But we've got other parts. We're going to need fittings and unions and all that because of the rusty stuff that it's got. It's hard for you to see it, but there's just not a whole huge amount of fitting left. I did find one fitting we had. I have reused a couple of them, to kind of piece together what I can until our parts get here, which I am not sure when they're going to get here, because when we called earlier this morning, they told my boss that they lost the truck. Like literally lost it. They don't know where it is. So that was 5 hours ago. We've got till tomorrow to get this car done, so yeah, we're getting down to the short rows. But I'm going to do what I can until then. We're going to show you how to flare a line. Step 1. Step 2, put the line in the flaring tool. Step 3, flare it. Step 4, discover that you missed step 1, and you're going to have to cut it off again because you didn't put the fitting on there. That's why step 1 is put the fitting on the line. Step 1, put the fitting on the line. Step 1, put the fitting on the line. Now, what I do with these when I use the old ones, these things can run, $2 or $3 a piece. They're getting now to where they can get them aftermarket. There for a long time, they were dealer only, and you had to know the part number beforehand before you could get them. But now, they would send you, the lines aftermarket and say, yeah, these work. No, they don't. Yeah, it's the right one. No, they're the wrong thread. And then, anyway, I use the old fittings when I can, if they're good enough. These are, good, kind of enough, more or less. At least it's got 6 points left. I clean them all up, wire brush them, drill out the piece that's stuck inside, kind of ream the center a little bit to where it goes on there and slides evenly. Now, I have this tool here that makes it a lot easier to flare this. It also does a little bit neater of a job, but you can get deals at the parts store that you can do that with. They're a little bit more troublesome. This one here is supposed to be handheld. It's got a rubberized grip down here where you hold on to it and hold on to it. I just put it in a vise. It's easier to handle if you got a lot of flares to do and you're working, on little bitty short pieces. I have already put on 4 flares, 2 pieces of line, and mounted the right side line already back on the car. And now I'm working on going from the brake hoses for the rear axle forward to where it's not a flaky mess. But you got this little die that it presses into. You slide that on there, drop it in. Now here is the art to it. It is figuring out exactly how long you're going to make it. You got to push the thing through a certain amount to make the perfect flare. The first kit that I had, I was told that you measure it off of a little insert that they gave you, and it was way too long, like way too long. And you would tighten down the flare and it would mushroom over and be off center. Now, screw this thing in. It hits. This is hydraulic. You just pump it up. Back it off. This is the other thing that makes it a lot easier when this thing's mounted. You can make sure you tighten this thing up tight. Otherwise, your line's just going to slide out the back. And there we go. Bubble flare. Now, if I was doing a standard inverted flare, they have a different connection that you put in there. This is just an insert. You can see holds center in the hole in the line, and it sets in there, and then it mushrooms it out to a cone shape, and that's the inverted flare that you could make. Now, several years ago at the other shop, I had a Ford Taurus come in, and supposedly somebody in town had put all new brake lines on it. Charged the customer $400, which seems kind of steep in the early 2000s, but it was late 2000s. But you know, if they replaced all the lines, yeah, fair enough. Get the car up in the air, and there was not a flared fitting on it. What they had done is they cut it off about that far from every flare and put a compression fit junction, which is just a smooth brass deal that you tighten it down and it compresses on there. It's supposed to hold it, which works good with like fuel lines and stuff. You're only running 100 pounds on them. Brake pressures, whenever you're doing a panic stop, you're over 2,000. So when a deer runs out in front of you and you slam on the brakes, it just spits the line off of there and you have no brakes. So I've always wanted to flare it. But this car came in and it was just a mess. I mean, it was horrible. There was one line they didn't replace, left front, which is the shortest line on the car and easiest to make. The customer told me, well, he was told that you can't make those lines. They're impossible to make unless you're in a factory, and you have to buy them directly from the dealer and all that kind of stuff. And put the car up on the rack here at home, and we looked at it and saw what it was. My brother took it off and he just handed it to me. And I turned around at the workbench at home. I didn't have this at that time. I had just a standard clamp-on flaring tool, a good quality one, but still one that you buy at the parts store. It just made it a lot harder to work with. I turned around to the workbench and started working while he talked to the customer there. And after, about 6 minutes, I turned around and handed him the new line. And I said, there's the line that you can't make. And the customer looked at it. Well, how'd you do that? Well, there's a lot of stuff that I've done that I can't do. It's impossible to do. But I didn't have any choice. So I just do it. I've done so much for so long with so little, I'm not qualified to do anything with nothing. Yeah, that's life. like, comment, subscribe down there, and use the little buttons, and you know, spread it around. And I'll talk to y'all later.